from where?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Do you need me to move this? Is it like here? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Am I allowed notes? I think so. I got some. I'm gonna make something for the beginning.
Hello, candidates. Please come up here and give us a big smile. Thank you. You're moving too much over there.
Sorry, my feet don't touch the floor very well here. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Now it's microphones. I have to talk into microphones.
Yeah, it should be about the max time that I can sit in a chair like this. Hopefully.
Before we start, just when you're talking on the microphone, just put it up to your mouth here like this so we can all hear you. That'd be good.
Okay, are we ready? He's ready? Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board City Candidate Forum for Districts 2, 4, and 6. My name is Kathy McComber. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, but not a resident of Minneapolis. I'm pleased to be moderating this forum this evening. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer organization with a long history of providing unbiased candidate and issue information that is widely used by voters regardless of political beliefs. This forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters Minneapolis, Make Voting a Tradition, and the Standish Erickson Neighborhood Association. The views expressed are those of the candidates and not those of the co-sponsors. Neither the League of Women Voters nor its co-sponsors endorse candidates or political party. We are holding this forum for voters to hear from candidates and to compare their ideas. This forum is being held in front of a live audience at the Minneapolis Central Library and is being live streamed to the League of Women Voters Minneapolis YouTube channel. The recording of this forum will be available in its entirety after the forum and will have a closed caption option available in multiple languages. Thank you to MCN6 for the production and recording of this event. We ask that campaign buttons or T-shirts are not to be worn in this room and that no signs or literature be distributed during this event. Please remain as quiet as possible while the candidates are speaking so that everyone can hear the discussion. No private audio or video recording is allowed during this event. We would also ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum so that candidates will have a maximum time to respond to your questions. And finally, please silence all electronic devices. The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board is a semi-autonomous body responsible for managing the city's parks, recreational facilities, and green spaces. It operates separately from the city of Minneapolis with its own jurisdiction and funding. The park board develops park policies, hires the park superintendent, and enacts ordinances governing the use of the city's parks, recreational facilities, and green spaces. All candidates on the ballot were invited to the forum, and 5 are with us this evening. The District 4 candidates here today are Jeanette Colby, Andrew Gibo, and Jason Garcia. The District 6 candidates are Kathy Benny and Ira Jourdain. We thank the candidates in advance for engaging in a respectful and civil discourse. We have timekeepers sitting in the front row, so each candidate has the same amount of time to respond to the questions. Following the opening statements of 1 minute, each candidate will... Okay. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to answer each question and 30 seconds to make a closing statement. The timekeeper will hold up a card when there are 15 seconds remaining and a stop card when the time is up. When the stop card appears, candidates may finish their sentences and stop at that point. We expect this forum to last approximately 75 minutes. Questions from community members have been submitted in advance to the League of Women Voters. During the forum, we will take written questions from the audience until 15 minutes before the end of the forum. For this one, we will take the last questions at 4 p.m. League of Women Voter and student volunteers, would you raise your hands if you are the question gatherers? So these are the folks that will take your questions. They'll hand them to the question facilitators and then to the moderator. We ask that your questions be clear, pertinent to the issues at hand, and within the scope of the office, and made in the form of a question rather than a statement. All questions are carefully reviewed and rewritten when necessary to make sure they're directed to all candidates, forward-looking, not hostile, and not of a personal nature. We look for a balance of topics that affect us all, both locally and in the city as a whole. To get to as many topics as possible, we will limit the number of questions in each category. We may consolidate questions of the same general topic. If you feel your question was not addressed, please follow up with the candidates after the forum. And finally, all questions submitted are the property of the League of Women Voters, Minneapolis. For the candidate's opening statement, we ask that they address the question, why are you running and what are your qualifications? Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond. The first candidate to speak will be Ms. Benny.
Thank you. I do believe the materials we signed, we had 1.5 minutes identified for the opening statement.
Yeah, you're right, I apologize for that. We would be at 5 candidates.
I can address.
And in 75 minutes, we changed that.
I prepared 1.5 minutes.
Talk fast.
Okay?
Yes, that's what I'd say.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to connect with District 6 voters and others. I'm Kathy Abeni, and I'm running for re-election to the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, District 6, because our parks aren't just green spaces. They're the heart of our neighborhoods where families build memories, kids find their spark, and everyone has access to fresh air and nature. I've called Minneapolis my home since 1985. My wife, Marn, and I have raised 3 kids here, and they participated in park programs. I'm a licensed civil engineer with over 25 years stewarding public assets, from water resources at the University of Minnesota to capital planning and city and county roles that I've held. I've seen how thoughtful governance turns challenges into lasting value. That's the lens I bring: practical expertise in water resources and public systems, always with an eye on equity and the long view. In my first term as your commissioner and now as board president, our board has delivered real progress together. We've launched a dedicated stormwater management team to tackle urban runoff and launched an action-oriented partnership focusing on water quality improvements. And I'm out of time.
Thank you. The second candidate to speak is Ms. Colby.
Well, I'm just going to take couple seconds of my time to welcome Jason to our forum. He's been pretty sick, and I'm really glad to see him. So thank you for coming today. And thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you, League of Women Voters. I grew up in Minneapolis. I attended a public high school in Dinkytown, and I lived in Loring Park for a number of years, which is District 4, and now live in my current house for the last 25 years. My husband and I raised a daughter who is now a teacher, and let's see, I graduated from Georgetown University with a major in government, and I've studied and worked in program evaluation, which I think is a critical piece to bring to this job. And I recently stepped down from a Parks and Rec job in another municipality in arts programming. So that is a very important element of what the Park Board does, and I'm happy to bring that expertise to the board. I've been a very active community volunteer in my neighborhood association, coached soccer for my daughter's team at various age levels, and have served on a number of advisory boards relating to parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia will speak next.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see all of you here. Thank you, Jeanette. As Jeanette mentioned, I've had some health problems over the past couple months, so I do apologize for not being as present at forums and debates and things like that as I wish I could have been. My name is Jason Garcia. I use they, them pronouns. I live in the Lowry Hill East neighborhood. I am a former president of the Lowry Hill East Neighborhood Association. I have been living in the Wedge since 2021. It's my second stint living in the Wedge and Whittier area. Earlier in between 2002 and 2004, I lived in the neighborhood as well. I'm running because I think we cannot afford to maintain the status quo of our park board, and I want to make sure that we are changing things to make sure that our park system is equitable, particularly for youth and the underserved communities in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Gibo will speak.
Thank you. I want to first echo the sentiment from Jeanette. It's really great to have you back, Jason. I've missed seeing you as we've been campaigning. And thank you to the League of Women's Voters for putting on this event. These are very important, and it's nice to see so many people taking an active participation in our democracy. My name is Andrew Gibo, and I'm running to be the next District 4 Park Board Commissioner. I live in Loring Park, where I have lived since I moved here from California in 2018. I have grown to love this city, and part of the reason why I'm sitting here running for Park Board today is 5 years ago, when our city was struck with the pandemic and the unrest following the tragic murder of George Floyd, I made a personal commitment to myself to be a part of building a brighter and better future for Minneapolis, and I view running for Park Board District 4 as beginning to fulfill that promise that I made to myself. And I have a business background, and I want to bring that business background to the Park Board to help the Park Board generate more independent revenue so we don't have to continuously increase property taxes year over year to fund our parks, because the parks have the ability to make their own money, and we need to do more of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Jourdain will speak next.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Ira Jourdain, and I am a candidate for Minneapolis Parks and Rec Board in District 6. I am Native American from the Red Lake Indian Reservation in Red Lake, Minnesota. My family and I, we live in the Kingfield neighborhood. We have 3 kids at home. We have a recent graduate of Minneapolis Public Schools. We have a senior, and we have a kindergartner at Barton. I am a dad that's active in the parks. Our daughter plays soccer. She just done playing little kicker soccer at Kingfield. She did softball at Kinney Park. Our other kids are also involved in programming. My background is in human services. I work with families on public assistance, and one of the activities that we do is we get them active in the parks. We take families down to the parks, we get them involved, we get them involved with swimming, tennis, all kinds of other activities in the parks. Also, I'm running for park board because of the status quo is not acceptable. We have activity fees exploding for our youth. That's making it a staggered case of inequity in our system, and we are, facing other environmental concerns across this district, and I hope to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move to the questions from the live audience and those submitted in advance. Candidates will have up to a minute to answer the questions, and we'll have kind of a random rotation, so no one has to answer every question first. So we'll start with question 1. What do you see as the most important role the park system plays in the life of Minneapolis? And how would you strengthen that role or alter it? And we'll start with Mr. Garcia.
Thank you for that question. I think that our park system is vital to Minneapolis because it offers some of the very few spaces where you can go at no charge. When I was raising my son who went to South High, I was not fortunate enough to be able to afford a house with a nice backyard and things like that. So I saw what the park system meant to my son and his friends to be able to get outside, enjoy nature, take advantage of programming like recording music, being able to skateboard and things like that. And I think we need to continue to invest in and advance these sorts of things, not only for our kids, but for families, for those of us who are getting older and maybe have some mobility issues and things like that. There are a lot of places that aren't very welcoming. So I want to make sure that we are modernizing and updating our parks in order to make sure that they're welcoming and equitable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Mr. Jourdain.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Certainly. What do you see as the most important role the park system plays in the life of Minneapolis, and how would you strengthen that role or alter it?
Oh, good question. I think one of the things most importantly is that I think it contributes to each and every person's individual health in this city. I think it is a place where one can gather to work on their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health. It offers a way for us to focus on things in our lives that, we may need to take a walk. I see people when I walk on Lake Harriet doing yoga at 6:30 in the morning in the summertime. Those are things that we actively encourage in our parks, and it's a way of life that is very unique to the city of Minneapolis, and I think it's something that I see. I walk daily in Lake Harriet, so if anyone else has a question afterwards, come find me at Lake Harriet. But that is a place I think that our family counts on going to. And I think those are the things that we have accessibility for all of our citizens, whether you live in Southwest Minneapolis, whether you live in North Minneapolis, and making sure that we have access so people can focus on their individual health and their family's health and create memories that people will always fondly look back on in our park system.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Abeni.
Thank you. I think that the role that the park system plays in Minneapolis is, I think it's critical to the identity of Minneapolis. I think I've been, out campaigning for months now and talking to lots and lots of people. Minneapolis is made by our parks. People choose to come here because of our parks. They choose to live here. And the brilliance of our system is that we have reserved parks throughout the city where everyone has access, and we have almost all of our natural resources in Minneapolis are in the commons. It's a miracle. And so I think the way we strengthen that is if anyone has an opportunity to take a look at the mission of the parks, it's really an amazing and beautiful mission. That we follow the mission, that we elect a good board of commissioners that will be thoughtful, that will be thinking about the long-term viability of the system and the long-term mission of that system, and continue to make it better and better.
Thank you. Ms. Colby?
I agree. Those are all important things and critical to understanding the parks in Minneapolis. What longtime Commissioner Forney likes to say is this is not a city with parks. It's a park with parks. It's a city within parks. Is that right? Yeah. So the parks are critical to the identity of Minneapolis. They're important to people's physical and mental health. And they're also a connecting point. The parks bring people together, and we can especially count on that for our young people. One of the important initiatives that is going forward right now is intergenerational programming, bringing older people together with younger people and allowing that connection to happen, and people learning from each other. So there are a lot of really wonderful initiatives that are already started, and I would like to see many of those continued.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo?
Yeah, so to echo a little bit of what Kathy and Jeanette said, our parks are part of our identity and fabric of this city. It is one of the things that made me fall in love with this city immediately after moving here. But beyond that, our parks play a very integral role in how we develop communities, how we develop our neighborhoods, how the face of our city is going to look. There's a lot of talk throughout the campaign process, around public safety, and our parks can play a huge role in that by expanding youth programming and using our parks as an area for the youth to have a place to go and to develop and to learn and to build communities with their neighbors and their friends. These things will have long-term lasting impact in a positive way that will help shape our city in a better way, and that's the role that our parks can play within the fabric of our city.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll move into the area of youth programming and services. What is your top priority for engaging and supporting youth and family programs in our parks? And how would you ensure that all communities, including those that have been marginalized and underserved, have access to these programs? And Mr. Gibo, the last shall be first this time.
I guess it makes sense given my answer to the last question, right? Yeah, so, it's interesting, right? Like, I understand entirely the value of these youth programmings, but I'm also humble enough to understand that I may not be an expert in that, right? I have a business background. I work in the corporate world. I'm not a father, and it's been a while since I was a kid. So what specific programs they would be, I would lean on other people, more experienced people that have the background and the experience in those areas, partnering with the school board, partnering within the school districts, leaning on people on the park board like Kathy, who have been on the board before, and working from an understanding of this is important, we need to prioritize this, and let's get the right people together that have the right ideas and the right experience and the right background so that we can put programming in place that is effective and do so in a way that is equitable and ensure that our marginalized communities also have access to these programs.
Thank you. Mr. Jourdain?
Yeah, thank you. Like I said earlier, I'm a dad that uses the parks, and I think one of the things, of course, is tackling our fee issue. We have seen an explosion in activity fees across the city, across every programming. Several years ago, the park board had a program set up for this incoming board called a pay-what-you-can model. This current board disregarded that information, disregarded the setup process. We had instead have had a resulting explosion in fees. My little girl plays soccer this year was $72 for her to play soccer. Not everyone can afford that. Yes, we have sliding fee scales. It goes down to 54 to 36, I think to 18, but not every family can afford even the $18 because they're marginalized and they don't have access because we don't play soccer in every single park, do we? No, we don't. So finding ways to equitably have access for every single family that wants to play soccer, for example. Every single family should be able to afford to reduce our fees, but $72 is ridiculous. And if I'm elected, that is one thing that I am going to pursue, is making sure that we have an equitable fee structure. In fact, we should do the pay what you can model. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Colby?
I'm pretty sure there is a pay-what-you-can model, isn't there, Ira?
It's sliding fee.
Sliding fee.
It's sliding
That's
fee.
different, yeah, that's different.
Yes.
I would say that we have some really wonderful programs happening in the parks now. We have over 10,000 kids who play youth sports. We have park board sports that are accessible, but I do agree with you that the pay-what-you-can model might be better than a sliding fee scale. But like Andrew said, I would also not count myself an expert in youth sports. I have done a lot of arts programming, however, and the arts programming is fantastic for kids who are not sports kids. And the Park Board has instituted some amazing arts programming, especially the Spark Studios that have been opened in several rec centers. I urge you to find out about those.
Thank you. Ms. Abeni?
Thank you. We do actually turn no one away for cost. So the last board, one of their last acts going out the door was to make programming free at 17 sites. And we tried that for a little while, but we came back with a model that is actually much better. It is a sliding scale model, but it can go down to as low as $5. It depends on the activity. And there are still a lot of free things to do. But even with that scale, there is no one turned away. We have a scholarship program, and that applies to senior citizens as well as youth. The other thing that we do to engage families is and kids is we have all kinds of programming. As Jeanette just said, there's all kinds of a variety of programs in the parks. It's kind of amazing. And then finally, how do we draw people in? So the park workers that we have out in the rec centers, these are park professionals. These people work in recreation, and they're amazing. They go into this line of work because they care about community. They care about this type of thing. They connect with the communities, and they curate the activities at those rec centers for the communities that are served. And we keep trying new things, and that's what we'll continue to do, and our numbers are up, and so are in terms of dollars and in participation.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Could I have you repeat the question?
Absolutely. What is your top priority for engaging and supporting youth and family programs in our parks? And how would you ensure that all communities, including those that have been marginalized and underserved, have access to these programs?
Okay. One of the things that I really want to call out is that I think it's very easy for those of us who live in the southwestern part of the city to overlook the experiences of people who live in more marginalized parts of the city, and how important it is for us to be doing outreach and contacting people to see what their experiences are. The Park Board has traditionally not been reflective of the diversity of Minneapolis, and I think that's something that we need to change going forward. It's really exciting to have other ethnic minorities running, people of LGBTQ backgrounds and things like that. But one of the things that I really want to call out as far as youth programming is youth workers in the parks. It's a very important program to give our particularly marginalized youth a step up and a way into good paying, solid careers. There were several positions cut by this past park board, and as a hopefully future park commissioner, I would want to make sure that we reinstate those and expand those programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next area of questions is under environmental stewardship. We'll begin with Mr. Garcia. The first question is, how would you protect the natural environment and wildlife throughout the park system, excuse me, and ensure all communities have equal access to nature in Minneapolis parks?
So I think that one of the really fascinating things about the city is we pride ourselves on our number of parks and how close parkland is to pretty much everybody who lives here. And that's a really great thing for us to be proud of, but we can improve on that. Particularly when it comes to our commitment to the environment, we can continue to look at ways to reduce impermeable surfaces, making sure that we are controlling runoff, making sure that we're controlling vehicle emissions, especially in our parks and on our parkways. The Park Board also administers our urban tree canopy, and that is something that as we move forward and start feeling the effects of climate change even more, that we're going to have to put a lot of work into. We're going to have to work with our arborists and our naturalists to figure out what that looks like going forward to work around the effects of the climate changing that we're seeing already. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abeni?
Thank you for this question. Yes, protecting the natural environment is something this board has been really moving forward with in a way that's been kind of leaps and bounds. We've done some incredible work around water quality, and maybe we'll have some more specific questions around stormwater runoff and water quality. But we've also directed more resources, many more resources toward natural areas management. The other thing is our park system does really rely on volunteers. They're amazing. And there's a lot of people that do environmental stewardship type work in our park system. We've expanded our support for volunteers in the system. In terms of wildlife, wildlife made it into our mission, I think, in the last round of the comp plan work, and it's right in there, people, plants, and animals, and I think that's important. We have areas that are preserved for animals, and I think that if we can keep our human footprint low in those areas, so we prioritize those guys in our city as well. So I think the board has been excellent in the area of natural resources, and I'd hope to continue that work.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo?
Yes. So, our parks have done a good job of maintaining these environments, but we can do an even better job. There is a staffing shortage of dedicated full-time professionals whose job it is to maintain and preserve our natural ecosystems and wildlife within our parks. Just maybe about a month ago, I walked through Louise Butler Garden with one of these volunteers that spends a lot of time cleaning up the ecosystem in there, and they were explaining to me how this is predominantly all volunteer work, and it takes hundreds of hours. They've been doing this for years and have only been able to clear a small section of the bushweed to allow these natural wetlands to come back. And I believe that there's a need for us, the park board, to increase staffing in those areas so that we have a dedicated team of professionals who are trained in this area and understand how to maintain and preserve these natural environments so the natural plants there and the wildlife can thrive.
Thank you. Ms. Colby?
Well, I would echo what Commissioner Abeni said. Volunteers are a huge piece of what's happening in our parks to keep the natural areas under stewardship and maintained. I also met with Jim Proctor and Friends of Eloise Butler Park, but I could name a number of other people. Will Stensrud at East Cedar Beach, Henry LaBonta at East Isles, the whole Cedar Lake Park Association, Neil Tremblay, they all contribute amazing amounts to our natural areas. And I would like to see a naturalist added if possible. It's, if it fits into the budget, and support the work of those volunteers. I'd also like to see more kids involved in natural areas. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question, as commissioner, what would be your top 3 priorities? Oops. Oh, I missed Mr. Jourdain? I am so sorry. You're right. Would you like me to repeat the question? Sure. How would you protect the natural environment and wildlife throughout the park system and ensure all communities have equal access to nature in Minneapolis parks?
That's a great question. I think one of the things besides our strategic plan is also getting community feedback and community engagement. I think that prioritizing what works in our system, what people want to see in our parks is vital. I think back to, how that is. And so you look at, say, and preserving our land that we have, right? I think of the land on the mall, parking on the mall, and, where the board took community engagement. And I think that it's a time where the board needed to listen to the community instead of, conserving our land, instead of opting for a parking lot instead. I think that is where we need to have better land conservation practices. I think that comes down to community engagement, I think, on the part of the board and listening to our community. I think we also, and that feeds into like our land conservation, our water runoff problems that we have with stormwater, and permeable paving, something that Mr. Garcia just alluded to a few minutes ago. But I think that's one of those things is, talking to our community, saying what is actually important to us, and we follow through with what the community says. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I apologize.
Okay.
So now we're moved to, we're still in environmental stewardship. As a commissioner, what would you do to help alleviate impact of climate change, improve sustainability, and adapt to the changing seasons? And we'll start with Ms. Colby.
In 1 minute. Well, let me just say that the Park Board has planted over 10,000 trees in the past year. And that's such a critical part of addressing climate change in urban environments. They've also made a big stride toward the goal of reducing the carbon footprint that the operations vehicles emit. So those are two big things that I think are really important. I'm sorry, I was distracted by, in 1 minute, that whole huge question about how the parks can impact climate change is enormous. So I'm sorry, I got distracted. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo.
Yes, thank you. I think that our parks, given that they are our green spaces, our natural spaces, kind of an oasis within our urban setting, do play a key role in sustainability and combating climate change. And Jeanette had talked about planting the trees, measures like that, but also tying into what we just talked about in the previous question with maintaining natural areas and ecosystems and not letting them get overrun with invasive species. Those are the steps that we can do to ensure that these natural spaces remain, continue to thrive, and can act as a buffer for the city for climate change. We are very, very fortunate, very unique in a lot of ways with our parks here. And one of my favorite things is how you can feel like you're in the middle of the wilderness, but you're really in the middle of a big city. And maintaining that is what we can do best to maintain sustainability.
Thank you. Mr. Jourdain?
Yeah, thank you. I think when we're looking at sustainability, I think one of the things, back when I was on the Minneapolis School Board, one of the things that we did was we created a partnership with the Park Board back in 2017 that all shrubs, trees, bushes, anything you see on the Minneapolis Public School property is now purchased directly through a partnership with the Minneapolis Park Board. We started that in 2017. It's something that I am very proud of. That's something I worked with former Commissioner Brad Bourne on, and it's something that continues to this day. So there are options of creating partnerships with entities here in the city that benefits our working folks in the parks, and it also benefits our environment. I think other things that we could look at it doing is what they call stormwater parks. Canal Park in Washington, D.C., where my dad used to live, is one of the front runners and leaders in stormwater park retention services. It has done really well. I think we can look at bioretention for our water. And also, too, one of the other things that we also can, that has been proven to work is enhanced rock weatherization. And it's rocks that actually collect carbon naturally out of the air. And as something that is spread around this country, I think these are some very viable options that we could use in our park system. It's a great question.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. So in my day job, I work with farmers, particularly small BIPOC farmers throughout Minnesota who don't grow enough crops to sell directly to grocery stores or chains or things like that. And I can tell you the effects of climate change are real. They're already happening, and they're hitting our food system. One of the things that I'm really excited about working on is urban farming, giving people tools to help them understand food growth. It's not a magic bullet to solve the problem, but it's a tool to help people understand what's going on and how the climate is impacting them. Some of the things that we can do are work on reducing vehicle miles traveled as well as particulate emissions in our parkways and roadways that are adjacent to parks. And we can also make a better effort to return wetlands that have been filled in to their natural state. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Benny?
Thank you. Yes, the Park Board has made some progress in terms of reducing its carbon footprint that I'm pretty proud of. There are some of the operational opportunities that the Park Board's taken advantage with new technology in partnership with Toro. So Toro has R&D'ing many different types of electrified maintenance equipments for land care and things like that. And our fleet, we're electrifying that. We also opened the Graco Park building, which I think is one of the first public buildings that I know of in the state, maybe, I don't know, that's fully electrified. I wish it would get more press. It's kind of a big deal. There's no gas pipe to that building. It was built very efficiently. So we're bringing down what we can. The other thing is, in my day job, I work at the university, and I was part of the team that developed our resiliency and adaptation strategy for the campus. Green space, land, trees. Those are the keys for resiliency. And the Park Board is the entity that has those things in our city. So we'll keep a healthy canopy. We will keep cared for and stewarded land, and I'm out of time. Hope we get this topic again.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to budget funding priorities, fiscal management. What new or alternative funding models would you pursue other than relying predominantly on property tax levies to fund the maintenance and improvement of Minneapolis parks? And we'll start with Ms. Abeni.
Yeah, this current board has done some good work around that. We've created a new focus area on stormwater management and runoff treatment, and we took all of the personnel that we had that were funded by property taxes and we moved them to the utility. So everyone that pays a utility bill directly or indirectly, you're paying a little bit each month to the Park Board, and we're able to grow what we're doing in that area because of that. The other thing is this current board has created an endowment, and I could go on. There are other things we've done as well. So what do we need to do? This current board is looking at strategies, and I think some will be deployed in the budget that will be adopted this year for revenues. We know that we can't continue to go back to the property tax pool, so we're looking at revenues in the parks. And then I think that we also need to be looking at things, we need to try to continue to get more local government aid from the state. That's a big topic. And I think there's some opportunities to at least start talking about the ways in which the Park Board should be having sales tax revenues flow to it.
Thank you. Mr. Jodane?
Thank you. Yes, I think one of the things that we definitely need to do, if you've taken a look at how this Park Board gets their budget, a lot of it, of course, is property taxes, levies, and I think I can speak for some of us in the room who are kind of had it up here with our rising property taxes. I think that we can do a better job of lobbying at the legislature for LGA, that's local government aid, that the Park Board actually gets directly from the state. It's not a pass-through through the city or the county. That is very important when it comes to our budgeting process. Also, too, again, creating partnerships such as with Minneapolis Public Schools. We can expand those. We can expand the ones that we have with the city of Minneapolis with our recycling programs, as well as our cross-training of employees, which is something, again, that Minneapolis Public Schools has done very well. What I mean by that is we're cross-training employees that are also, that work say they're arborists. We can cross-train them to do plant treatments and the like, and I think those are some things that we should be able to do, that we can save money so we're not constantly going back to the voters with property tax and levy increases as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Jibo?
Yeah, I think this is very important, right? Because the park board, unlike most other government bodies, actually has an ability to generate revenue. Most governments, they don't. They don't provide a service. They don't provide things that make money. The park board does. Through permitting, through fees, and this may not be a totally popular answer, but we can do small things like increasing parking costs at the parks. We can do better with our land use. I know there's been discussions around adding billboards. Absolutely not in the parks. We don't want that, but there are spaces along the highways that are technically owned by the park land. And if a park board can own the billboards on that space, that's more revenue in for the park board. We can also have events in our parks. We can, not permanently, but maybe for a weekend, close down the parkways and have like an uptown art fair around Lake of the Isles Parkway. That can bring in money for the park board. We can advertise people having more weddings in the parks. That's money into the park board. We can ensure that our food vendors at places like the Damacoska Pavilion are actually providing a service that people want to go to, that draws people in. So there are many ways that we can do this, and the park board has the opportunity to do it, and we should be maximizing it.
Thank you. I have a quick announcement for our live audience. We're going to cut off questions from the audience at 3:45 so we can get to all the questions. Thank you. Now we'll move to Mr. Garcia. And do you need me to read the question again?
No, I think I'm okay. This is one of those questions that it's unfortunate to go toward the end because other people had brought up a lot of the ideas that I think we're all looking at as more low-hanging fruit, things like lobbying for additional local government aid. As we look at our situation right now, we're facing a hostile federal government, and that's going to cause problems for a lot of our funding. So I know a lot of us have looked at things like expanding opportunities to have events in parks, potentially closing parkways for short periods of time to encourage use in those areas and things like that. We have some very popular programming like that already. One of my personal favorites is the Owamni Falling Water Festival that happens at the Stone Arch Bridge in the fall. But I think we can also evaluate some of our high expenditure programs and see what we can do around budgeting to make sure that we're using the funding that we currently have in a positive, effective way. Thank you.
Ms. Colby?
I agree with you, Jason. It is tough to go at the end on this one. The park board already is looking at a lot of the things that have been listed, including prioritizing new revenue sources. But I do think we need to be really careful about over-commercialization in the parks, and we need to be careful about creating fees that create barriers to participation. We need better representation at the state level to get some of that LGA money, and we need commissioners who are able to talk to legislators. I'd also agree that there are opportunities for efficiencies, and I know that the Park Board has started to collect implement some new ways to collect data about participation and other forms of evaluating the usage. And with a program evaluation background, I think that would be one of my priorities.
Thank you. Now we'll have questions on land back and cultural heritage. Land acknowledgements that celebrate and honor the indigenous people and nations that initially inhabited the land that is now Minneapolis Parks are a starting point for addressing historical, social, and racial injustices. As a commissioner, what, if anything, will you do to continue returning Minneapolis parkland back to management by indigenous nations and people? And we'll start with Ms. Colby.
Well, the Park Board is currently working closely with the Dakota tribal nations to transform the site that used to be the lock and dam here on the river to make it both culturally and environmentally accessible to all people, especially the indigenous communities of our area. The site is called Yomini in Dakota. I don't speak Dakota, so I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. And the Dakota Nations undertook an intensive process to figure out the ownership structure and operating costs of it. So I think it's important when we talk about land back to understand that there's a process in figuring out who actually would own it and how it would be operated. The project on the river is a $60 million project, and its goal is to uplift Dakota history, language, and culture, and have it be a place where communities can come together to heal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Thank you. As my Dakota friends would say, Haum Mitukayepi, which means greetings, my family. I think it's really important that we continue the efforts that the Park Board has in place, but we can also do a better job of engaging with local indigenous communities. In my professional life, I've been very fortunate to do a lot of work within local Ojibwe and Dakota communities. I was the founding manager at the Indigenous Food Lab Market in Midtown Global Market a few years ago. As my good friend Blaze, who is a Dakota person, says, it is important for us to hear our indigenous languages in the parks. I think that's very low-hanging fruit for us to continue to add signage in Dakota and in Ojibwe or in Anishinaabemowin. And I think that's something very basic that we can start with and continue to build our relationships with local tribal and non-tribally affiliated indigenous organizations. Thank you.
Ms. Abeni?
Yes, the Park Board, under this current board, we started with talking about a land acknowledgement, and we ended up with an Indigenous action plan. And it's pretty excellent, actually, and it's been really rewarding to work on this. We have been hiring every year annually. We work with a consultant from the indigenous community, and she's helped guide this work. There are many things that we've done. One of them is there's an Indigenous Park Council. That is actually like a technical advisory committee, which is an interesting mechanism to engage people on specific questions. And one of the questions that has come up is the question of land back and whether or not that makes sense, or if there are other ways we could approach something similar. So we're focusing on the latter, and I'm going to run out of time here, but I'll just put the word cultural easement out there. The other thing is a lot of commissioners were taken on a tour of Bedote and other important sites, and I'd like that to be part of the onboarding for the commissioners this year. It's an incredible experience. So we're doing good work in this regard.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo?
You know, at a previous candidate forum for the Park Board, there was a member of an indigenous community who had gone up to the microphone and had expressed, you know, what land back would mean to him and in that community, and honoring that culture and understanding, you know, that this land was once native land. And so, you know, that person's passion for this really struck me, and I do believe that there's an opportunity for the Park Board to partner with the indigenous communities and understand, you know, what they want and forming a partnership and working with them, but we can also continue to add the signage or have cultural celebration events in the parks. Like we've talked a lot about events up here. Why can't we celebrate the Native communities with events in our parks celebrating their culture? And so I think that, you know, this needs to be first starting with compassion, understanding, meeting with the leaders of the indigenous communities, and understanding how they want to be honored or what this land means to them, and then finding a way to satisfy that for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, thank you for the question about land back. Just to be clear, I am Ojibwe, I'm not Dakota. So in case people are wondering, they are two different tribes, and history is very complicated. And I'm not going to give you a history lesson at this time. But land back, though, I think we do have a land acknowledgement that we say in events, and I think, you know, it's time that we as a society move past just land acknowledgement and actually have action and meetings behind it that follow through with it. As a member of the Minneapolis School Board, yes, we have a land acknowledgement. Now we have all of the 11 tribal flags in our boardroom so that people can see and understand that the school board recognizes the cultural aspect of us indigenous folks. Also, I think, though, some of the work that we do on land back needs to really be done through a very lens of fidelity and respect to our people. And I think we are starting really well with like the Omni Water Festival that Jason's talking about. It's a fantastic event, and build from there and what we are doing, and make sure that moving forward that all generations of people, not just our indigenous children and the families in the parks, but our non-indigenous families and people in the parks can respect and learn about the history of our city
Thank
at the
you.
same time.
Ms. Colby? Mr. Colby? Ms. Colby?
I think I went already.
Okay.
Yes, you want me on?
You did. Okay, Mr.
I'll say some more
Mr.
about it if you want.
More new question. Mr. Jourdain, we'll start with you. What specific programs or projects will you advocate for in your district if elected?
Yes, that's a great question. I think, of course, reduce fees for our youth and move away from what we have now and just do a straight pay what you can. But I also want to make sure that we have programs not just for our youth, but for our elders as well. I think that, as you know, I walk in the parks every day, and I see a lot of our senior citizens, if you want to call them that, out there in the parks. So I walk with my dad when my dad comes to visit from Michigan. We walk in the parks, and we see other people, and making sure that we have programs available for them as well. I think it's important, as you know, because I'm going to be 50 here in a few years, and I think that is something that we need to make sure that everyone in the parks, that there are programs for them. Like I said, there's yoga in the parks. There's dancing in the parks, there's concerts, there's musicals, there's things that in the parks that I think we need to make sure that those are things that are accessible in District 6. And also, too, we have the Minnehaha Park stream that runs through District 6, and I think making sure that is accessible for people as well moving forward, to be able to enjoy that as well moving forward in District 6, and making sure that we take care of that environmental process when it enters the city in District 6, that when it runs downstream into the other park districts along the way, that it is taken care of as well.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
All right, thank you. One of the things that I've heard from many potential constituents since I've been campaigning is that a lot of people feel like our parks aren't being taken care of. One of the main points that comes up a lot is we need to take care of what we have. So something that I would like to work on is evaluating our budget and looking at what maintenance looks like, looking at what, sorry about that, looking at what we can do to make sure that our trails, our lights, and things like that are all better maintained, to give people a sense of safety and security when they're using those facilities. I also want to make sure that we're working to rebuild a healthy relationship with our parks workers after the strike that happened, the first one in the history of MPRB. I think we have a lot of work that we can do to show our workers that we're operating in good faith and that we want to make sure that we're taking care of them going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abeni?
One of the things I've learned a lot about is about the athletic facilities in the parks, and we've done these studies. I won't go into the detail, but basically in the city of Minneapolis, we have no girls' fast pitch dedicated facilities. The schools don't have them, and they have a Title IX complaint, and the park board doesn't have those. So we've been working really hard on this, and one thing that I know we will be delivering, because we're leading up to it now at the end of this term, we'll be delivering to the community 4 to 6 high-quality premier girls fast pitch facilities in every quadrant of the city. And this is really exciting to me. So after that, we're going to be also we've looked at the diamond facilities, we need to look at our field facilities, and then we're going to look at our winter and ice facilities. Again, this is taking kind of a systems view across a set of infrastructures to make sure that we have what we need in the system and that it's serving the community. So I'm really excited about this with the fast pitch diamonds.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo?
So I believe that government in a lot of ways should be a bottom-up process, not a top-down. And that our role, if we are elected, is to listen to the members of our community, hear what they want, and go and deliver for them on the park board. It's not so much about what I want, it's about what you all want. And within District 4, there are 13 different neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has its own neighborhood association group. And so an idea that I have that was given to me by someone in one of those groups is, whether it be on a quarterly, monthly, semi-annual basis, bring these 13 neighborhood groups together into some capacity and hear from them directly of what do you need in your neighborhood, your parks, what are the people that want from you, and then say, okay, now I'm going to go to the park board and I'm going to deliver that and listen to each and every one of those neighborhoods to deliver for them. And for these, like, for example, I was door knocking in the Lowry Hill area, and someone asked about Kenwood Park and said, it's just a giant grassy hill. Can we do something else with it? And prior to that, I had always kind of liked Kenwood Park. And so those ideas are what I mean by bottom up, and listening to people that live near those parks and taking their needs and wants into consideration, not just mine.
Thank you. Now we'll move to another park question. Well, they're all park questions. I've got one more. Who have I?
Now, you asked me twice
I missed-
before, and now you missed me this
That's right.
time.
That's right. So sorry.
That's
Ms.
okay.
Colby.
Well, I was going to say also that it's really important to care for what we have. That's what I've been hearing mostly from people. A few of the areas that need attention are the Kenilworth Corridor, which is going to be coming online in 2027 or 2028, opening back up to bikes and pedestrians. And prior to the closure 7 years ago for construction on the Southwest Light Rail, there were estimates of between 600,000 and 1 million users of that space annually. So it's really important that we get back the green space that we can in that area. There's a new North Loop Park coming online. That one is going to need a lot of attention. There's a lot of innovative ideas and projects proposed around that one, as well as West River Parkway needs some attention, especially for traffic control and conflict between various users. And the list goes on, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Mr. Gibo, what is your commitment to engaging with park community volunteers and stewards as partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of inadvertently answered that a little bit in the previous one, and engaging with the neighborhood organizations. Throughout this process, those just a lot of the folks that I've seen be most engaged are the ones that have the community events in the parks in their neighborhoods. And so I think that there's a need to have a better partnership between the park board and a lot of those community organizations in listening to what they want and taking their feedback into consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Colby?
Could you read the question again,
Of
please?
course. What is your commitment to engaging with park community volunteers and stewards as partners?
Volunteers are really a force multiplier for the parks. As I said before, we have amazing volunteers that do amazing work in the parks. The park board has started to do some work toward reforming how the volunteer management is happening, but we have a lot more work to do on that. And I'd really like to see a focused effort on talking to volunteers, organizing the work, and then following through with creating a culture in the organization that values and respects the volunteer input.
Thank you. Mr. Jourdain?
So when you're talking about stewards, you're talking about union stewards or just the park stewards in general?
Volunteers and
Volunteer
community
stewards.
stewards.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think one of the great things about that is having our volunteer network, but also meeting people where they are, meeting our volunteers and saying, thank you for volunteering, but what can we do as a park system to make sure that you will continue to volunteer? You know, I think that that's one thing that is important. It's one thing that I did personally when I was on the Minneapolis School Board, was go out to our schools when we would have reading groups at certain schools in District 6. I would go there on the days that I knew that we had volunteers. And I would specifically sit there with them and say, well, thank you for volunteering for reading to these children. Thank you for helping them, you know, teach them math. Thank you for being here today. What can I do as a school board director help you continue to volunteer? What can you feed me? What can help me make your job easier? What can we do to make you feel welcome? What can make you feel respected, heard, seen, and doing the work that comes in volunteering? Because I want them to come back. I want them to invest in our community, whether they are an employee or volunteer, and I think that's what makes Minneapolis great, especially our parks and our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Thank you for the question. That's a really excellent topic and something that gets overlooked a lot in terms of how much we as a park board and park system rely on the community to sort of coexist in a symbiotic relationship. Since I started campaigning, I've had meetings with people who are stewards of community gardens, talking to them about what they see, what challenges they're having, what support they can use, and what resources they need. And I think replicating those sorts of meetings and conversations is vital. We have to be approachable, we have to be relatable, and we have to be accessible to the community who is, in a lot of ways, doing a lot of the heavy lifting throughout the city. And that's my commitment, is to make sure that I am open and available to the people who are doing that work to find out how we can support them best. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abeni?
Yes. You know, I think that the park system really does run on volunteers. In addition to the environmental volunteers and stewards, really coaches as well. There are mentor programs. There's a lot going on in the parks. And it's when you're in as a commissioner, you see it up close. It's astonishing. I think that what I've done personally is particularly around the environmental groups in District 6, you know, they definitely know who their commissioner is and find that commissioner right away when that commissioner begins serving. And I attend meetings with them. I'll go out and do some, you know, events with them, and I act as a liaison. And so I think one thing, the way Jeanette phrased it, I really like. We also need to make sure that the park board has a culture that respects volunteer input. So when I got on the board, the volunteers, I think, had a little bit of a broken relationship. And I think the enthusiasm of the volunteers has, you know, historically maybe overwhelmed the park board. So we have added more staffing and more support for volunteers. We're missing the mark a little on one of our strategic goals around that, but I'm hoping we can pick it up in the next round with the board.
Thank you. For our final question, we're starting to wrap up, so we'll do one final question before the closing statements in order to stay on time for the next candidate forum that starts at 4:30. So for this one, we'll start with Mr. Garcia. As a commissioner, how would you strengthen trust and collaboration between the park board and its employees?
Wow, again, in 1 minute. That's a lot. It's a big lift. And I think, you know, it kind of ties in with the last answer I gave, that a lot of it just has to be with building relationships. It has to be with being honest, with having values that reflect the things that are important to our workers, and letting them know that we have their back and we're here to take care of them. Since I started campaigning, that's been one of the main themes of my campaign, is reaching out and connecting with our union members who are working in our parks, finding out what challenges they're seeing, finding out what they need, what resources are missing. And that's why I was so proud to have a LIUNA member speak with me at the DFL convention when I was endorsed for District 4. That sort of relationship is something that can't be faked. It's something that has to be genuine, and it's something I'm dedicated to building. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abeni?
Yes. You know, I think that, you know, this particular campaign has had a lot of discussion, or if you're aware of it, you see that there's some discussion about the strike and so on. And that's true, that occurred. But I would say that there's also a lot of workforce at the park board that's pretty happy and is pretty, this is not a dire place to work. I don't think that this place is considered a place that is a place that people don't want to work at. I think it's a highly desirable place to be employed. I know the superintendent has a lot of interest in really working on workplace culture, and the commissioners, I would imagine, I know I do, support that. And I think that, operating a steady organization and an organization that is capable and can fund itself and be there for the workers in the way the workers are there for them is the best thing the organization can do. It provides an excellent opportunity for park professionals in our city to work in an amazing organization.
Thank you. Mr. Jourdain?
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things, of course, is meeting your workers where they are. That means meeting with your union stewards on a regular basis, making sure that not only are our workers well paid, but their fringe benefits as well, their time off, their sick leave, their maternity leave when they have children, that they enjoy, that they have the exact same benefits that others enjoy as well, so that they can take time off and enjoy the parks that they actually work in. I think that's very important. But I think also, too, having the two-way street of communication and meeting regularly with our union leaders and our union stewards and our workers in our parks. I think that's very important to be able to listen to. We had a teacher strike several years ago in Minneapolis Public Schools. I actually picked up a picket sign and walked with our teachers because, I think the school district that I was a part of was wrong. I walked with our teachers because it was a failure to listen, and I think that is what indicative of a strike is, a failure to listen to your employees and making sure that we can make those amends and build those bridges back to our staff. And I'm very proud to have been endorsed by LIUNA 363 because these are the workers in the parks. These are the people that you will see when you're at the park for any type of activity, and I'm proud to be endorsed by them.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo?
So our parks are as beautiful and wonderful as they are because of the incredible park staff that we have that maintains them. And given the strike that occurred recently, there's been a lot of talk throughout this park board campaign about supporting workers. And I believe that support for workers should also go beyond just support for the unions, and that supporting the workers means actually supporting the workers and the individuals and talking with them, hearing what's working for them, what is not, how can you be better supported by the park board. I met with a arborist on the park board, and we walked through Loring Park, and we had a conversation about kind of what's going well, what isn't going well, and they had expressed some frustration with not necessarily being able to get the ear of commissioners or not feeling that they're being heard. And this is an area where I think that my perhaps unconventional political background, coming from the corporate world, being in management, managing large teams, can be very effective. I understand how to motivate workers, how to manage workers, and how to be a good workplace leader and build a positive workplace culture.
Thank you. Ms. Colby?
Well, I agree. Those things are really important, connecting with the workers and understanding where they're coming from and what's working and what's not working in their jobs. That is more of a role for the superintendent and his management team than it is for the commissioners, but it's important for the commissioners to be on the ground as well. Coming from Parks and Rec, I know that the Parks and Rec jobs in Minneapolis are a great career for a lot of people. And I'm proud of the work that all the people in our parks do, from the rec staff to the foresters, to the maintenance people, to the lifeguards. I mean, we have fabulous people working in our parks, and we need to underscore that and show them our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now the candidates will have up to 30 seconds for their closing statements, and we'll begin with Mr. Jourdain.
Thank you. My name is Ira Jourdain. I'm the DFL endorsed candidate for the Minneapolis Parks and Rec Board. I got into the race late, so I had to scramble really hard and worked really hard to get that endorsement. I door knocked every single delegate, I called every single delegate, and I worked really hard after getting into the race late. I am endorsed by SEIU, the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers, AFSCME Council 5, and of course our wonderful LIUNA 363. Moving forward, don't forget there's still early voting going on until Monday, November 3rd, and of course it's election day, so I would appreciate your support moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibo?
So, 30 seconds, I'll be quick. Thank you again, League of Women Voters, for putting this on. Thank you to everyone here and those who are watching on the live stream. I believe our parks are places where everyone should feel welcome, where the staff is supported and celebrated for their hard work, and where the connection between the park board and the community is built on trust and collaboration. I'm asking for your support, not just for my campaign, but for the vision we all share, a city where our parks are accessible, equitable, and thriving for generations to come. Thank you so much for being here, and let's move Minneapolis forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Thank you. My name is Jason Garcia. I am the District 4 DFL and labor endorsed candidate for the Park Board Commissioner role, and I want to serve the community with an equity lens. I want to make sure that our parks are operating the best they can for everybody, from the community to the workers to the park board, and make sure that we are doing everything we can to set our city up for success despite the challenges from the federal government and despite the existential challenges of climate change and wealth inequality that we are seeing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Colby?
Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thanks, League of Women Voters. My top priority as the District 4 Commissioner would be to listen to constituents, communicate proactively, and champion the projects and practices that matter in District 4. Residents have shared several key priorities with me: safety and accessibility, stewardship and maintenance, creative programming, and environmental protection. And those are the things that I'd like to be working on in the next 4 years as your Park Commissioner.
Thank you. Ms. Abeni?
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. My name is Kathy Abeni. I'm the District 6 Commissioner, and I'd like to be reelected to that seat. I've been proud to be part of a board that's been actually very functional and has gotten a lot done, and we've had that feedback from people that have watched the park system for many years. It's been my honor this year to serve as Park Board President, and I served as Vice President before that. Having a board that is functional and is looking toward the future but staying focused on our mission and committed to working hard is critical, and I will commit to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of all of the co-sponsors, I thank the candidates for being part of the democratic process by running for office and for being willing to serve our community. We hope this forum has helped voters in Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board Districts 2, 4, and 6 make an informed decision with regard to the November 4th election. Remember, we use ranked choice voting for this election, where you vote for candidates in order of your preference, allowing you to rank your vote: first choice, second choice, and third choice. This method can allow your vote to count toward another candidate if your favorite candidate loses. If your first choice candidate is eliminated, your vote is moved to your second choice. Fair Vote Minnesota is with us tonight and will gladly answer any questions you have. We also thank you, the audience, for your participation in this forum and in the democratic process. We challenge you to think about what 3 things you can now do to further civic dialogue about the issues and encourage participation in this important election. Nonpartisan information about candidates and voting is also available at vote411.org. Early voting for the general election began on September 19th and ends Monday, November 3rd. The video recording of this forum will be available unedited for viewing on the League of Women Voters Minneapolis website, lwvmpls.org. Editing of this video is authorized only for official media reporting. Footage cannot be used in campaign publicity or for other partisan purposes. The recording is the property of the League of Women Voters Minneapolis organization. Please vote. Your vote is your voice and your power. At this point, you can show your appreciation for the candidates by your applause, and thank you and have a good evening.